today's album is an interesting one. I don't mean that in a good way or a bad way, but I do find it interesting still. And that's Chainsaw Dismemberment by Mortician. Now, Mortician has been a death metal band since the early 1990s. They have a grindcore sound with, mixed with death metal, and they're quite an interesting band. On their studio albums, they actually don't have a drummer. They use like a drum programmer, I think, if that makes sense. They have to program the drums into the music because, when you listen to the drums, for a while it was like, there's no way that's a person. There's no way that's a human being. Not even like Pete Sandoval from Morbid Angel could be that fast all the time. And because it's literally like something like the fastest blast beats you might ever hear, but it's not a person, it's a machine, which some people might find to be cheating. Personally, I don't really care what people use. Let me rephrase that. So, let me say it like this. So the band Rings of Saturn, they have triggers on their kick drums, so it makes it even faster. And I first heard that, I'm like, holy crap, that is like amazingly fast. I can't even believe that. But after finding out that it was triggers, for a little bit I was like, is that cheating? It shouldn't really matter, and it doesn't matter to me anymore. But I used to really be conflicted about that because, when I listen to music, I like hearing the talent. When someone is playing as fast, like Pete Sandoval from Morbid Angel, it is impressive. It's just like, oh my god. Pete is one of the best drummers in metal, if you ask me. And not only does his speed help, but he's actually able to make it good. He's not just fast for the sake of being fast. And then I came to the conclusion that I don't really care. If you're gonna make a death metal album and you can't growl, so you use machines to help you sound like you're growling, yeah, that's cheating, and that I don't like that. But if you're gonna use a drum machine or maybe some triggers on your kick drums, I'm fine with that, because at the end of the day, if it's good music, it's good music, right? First thing, right off the bat, from the very first track, they actually use a lot of sound bites from movies, horror movies in particular. If you know anything about Mortician, the lead singer / bassist is a horror movie fanatic. He has hundreds, maybe even thousands of horror movies, and it's all showcased, and a lot of them are showcased on these albums. When I say albums, I mean Hacked Up for Barbecue and Chainsaw Dismemberment, this one. And right off the bat, it starts with a movie soundbite from a movie called When a Stranger Calls, which is an excellent psychological horror movie. And I remember it goes on for 2 minutes almost, but it kind of sets the tone right away. And then when the music does kick in, you hear the guitars and everything is so toned down. It's insane how toned down, how low the tone is for some of these songs. Now, actually, I'll talk a little more about that later. So, the instrumentation on this album, I think, is pretty decent. You know what? No, I'm going to talk about the little problem that some people might have with this. So, when you have guitars that are toned down so low, and you have blast beats in every song, you have, you're playing really fast in them, a lot of the songs are going to start to blend together. And I've played Mortician to some of my friends, and most of them can agree that it eventually starts to blend together, which that's not a good thing. That's not really a good thing to have in a band. Now, me and Mortician have a kind of a cool relationship. I don't really listen to them all that much, except for in the fall season. It just horror. When I think of fall, I think of Halloween and horror movies, and it's the perfect time to listen to it. So, and which in turn, Mortician is the best time to listen. It's the best time to listen to Mortician. And I can listen to them, but I can still agree. Like, yeah, like if I'm driving in my car listening to them, and when the blast beats start to kick in, I almost don't even hear a difference in any of the riffs and the guitars. And the bass is so low. The growling, his vocals are really low. Like, I mean, I've looked at the lyric sheet, hear him say the vocals, and he could literally be saying anything else other than, what's posted there. But still, I do find enjoyment out of Mortician. I do get a kick out of him. Just a little side note, I really like their band logo. It's a really cool one. I just always thought it was really cool to look at. But, so yeah, back to the album. And they use various horror movies, sound bites, all ranging from maybe like a 50-second introduction to a minute and a half, or even less than that. And when I was getting into horror movies a little bit, I kind of checked it out because I was like, this is kind of cool. You got horror movies in the songs that sets the tone for the song, kind of gives a general theme for the song. Even though, I mean, you can look at the title of every song and kind of get a hint of what you're gonna see. These are gory death metal tracks, gore metal. That should be a thing. But it's pretty interesting. I don't think a lot of people are going to like this. You may listen to a song and might be like, alright, that was good. Moving on to something else, because I don't know. Like I said it before, but when everything is toned down so low, it starts to blend together. And when you have an album that has like, God, of course I can't remember the exact track number, but there's like 40 songs on this album. And all of them, most of them ranging from about a minute and a half to 2 minutes, maybe a little more than that. And when I say like song length, I mean when the music actually begins, not just, having the sound bite in there with it. But that being said, I always give Mortician to listen to around the Halloween season. It's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's a guilty pleasure because I don't think they're a bad band. I do think though that it's a niche. It's very niche. If you like Mortician, you're definitely in a niche crowd. But they're interesting. I like hearing the drum machine. I like hearing their guitars every once in a while. Like, I really appreciate just how low it sounds. It just sounds evil and macabre. Like, I don't know. It's really cool. And, there's tons of horror movie introductions and references in these songs. I mean, you could find pretty much everything in there. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, the album is called Chainsaw Dismemberment. That's obviously reminiscent of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You got a lot of really not so well known ones. Wolfen, that's a pretty good one. Grindhouse, there's a Grindhouse film on here. Grindhouse films called I Drink Your Blood and I Eat Your Skin. I'm trying to think of one more. Silent Night, Bloody Night is on there. And there's some other ones I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this album review. It's hard to really describe it because it's so low. Everything is so toned down low, and a lot of people are probably just gonna say it's okay, or people might even say it sucks. I don't think it sucks, but this is just one person's review. But the horror movie today that I'm going to recommend actually appears on this album, and that's Zombie, or Zombie 2, depending on where you're from. That's right, we got some Italian horror up in here. This is my favorite zombie movie out of anything. I mean, I've seen Night of the Living Dead, I've seen Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. Fantastic movies, but for some reason I really like Lucio Fulci's Zombie. It's just, I love the story, I love the acting, I love the way it starts, I love everything about it. It's just so awesome. It's got the perfect amount of gore in it for me. It's got the perfect amount of actual terror. If there's one thing I do think horror movies can sometimes struggle with, if you have too much blood, to me it kind of becomes humorous. Like Evil Dead 2 status. Like that movie's hilarious with the amount of blood that it has in it. Or like some of the Friday the 13th movies. Like those don't really scare me or, you know, make me feel uneasy. It's just like, oh, this is a gore fest. Still awesome, by the way. I'm not just saying gore sucks. That's not the point of what I'm trying to say. But when I want something like genuinely sort of a little more terrifying, I do think the downplay of blood can help. But that's just me personally. But Zombie by Lucio Fulci is an excellent movie that you should all check out. You can probably find it. I mean, I don't know if it's on Netflix. Netflix doesn't really have anything I like, so probably not. But I don't know. Go check it out. You might like it. There's other great zombie movies out there, but this has to be my all-time favorite. So that's going to do it for today. I'll see you next time.